Iowa is heading toward a healthcare crisis, and our Republican elected leaders in Washington are helping to accelerate it. Republican proposals moving through Congress would cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid and hundreds of billion dollars more from SNAP, the food assistance program that thousands of Iowa families rely on every single month. These cuts are being framed as budget savings, but here in Iowa, the consequences would be devastating. When Medicaid gets cut, rural hospitals close. We already know what happens next. Longer drives for emergency care, overcrowded ERs, nursing homes getting shut down, and families forced to choose between groceries, prescriptions, and rent. More than 700,000 Iowans rely on Medicaid, including children, seniors, people with disabilities, and working families. Rural hospitals across Iowa already operate on razor-thin margins. Major Medicaid cuts could push many past the breaking point. Yet, Iowa's Republican delegation, including Ashley Hinson, Randy Feenstra, Marionette Miller-Meeks, Zach Nunn, Joni Ernst, and Chuck Grassley, continue supporting the broader budget framework behind these cuts. Healthcare access is already shrinking. Labor and delivery units are disappearing. Mental health care is limited. Many communities are struggling just to keep providers and hospitals open. Medicaid is not just a government program in Iowa, it's healthcare infrastructure. It keeps hospitals open. It funds nursing homes. It helps children get care and seniors stay alive. And SNAP matters too. Food costs are still high. Families are stretched thin. Cutting food assistance while slashing healthcare support will hit rural and working class communities the hardest. Listen, Iowa cannot continue down this path because once a rural hospital closes, once a nursing home disappears, once families leave because care is no longer accessible, those communities rarely recover.
Hatred and bigotry is about to cost red states and red voters their hospitals and healthcare, and they have no understanding that that's what's going to happen and that the Democrats are actually trying to fight for them. See, Trump's big, beautiful bill cuts Medicaid, and here's the truth. MAGA has no understanding of how Medicaid works. See, Medicaid isn't just some line item. It's a federal and state partnership. The federal government pays a percentage of each state's Medicaid costs through something called FMAP, the Federal Medical Assistance Percentage. And here's the thing. Red states get the highest FMAP. The poorer the state, the bigger the federal share. For example, Mississippi gets 77% of their Medicaid paid by the federal government. West Virginia, 75%. Kentucky, Arkansas, Louisiana, 70% and more. Meanwhile, wealthier states like California only get 50% of the Medicaid bill federally funded. New York, just 55%. So when Donald Trump and Republicans slash Medicaid, it's not blue states that collapse. California and New York already fund nearly half of their own programs. They'll manage. It's red states that get destroyed. They depend on the federal government's dollars. They depend on the very federal funds that MAGA is now cutting off. So what happens when that money disappears? States are going to kick people off Medicaid who currently qualify. Rural hospitals, which are already barely hanging on, are going to shut down. Seniors, kids, pregnant women, and people with disabilities are going to lose care. And here's the ironic part about it. Most Medicaid recipients live in red states. Blue states will be fine. Red states will lose their safety net. And meanwhile, the Democrats are the ones fighting to protect those very programs in the budget negotiations happening right now. Democrats are trying to keep Medicaid so that the rural hospitals don't close, so that families in Mississippi, West Virginia, and Kentucky don't get abandoned. So let's call this what it is. Trump and MAGA are cheering for cuts that will devastate their own voters. Democrats are trying.
Forget the fact that he can't do math. Over and over again, Trump promised to get prescription drug prices down, but instead, he's about to double them. Trump said he'd bring all sorts of prices down. In fact, he promised gas would go down, electricity would go down, food and drugs. But between his tariffs and his wars, that's just not working out. In fact, when he's not mocking the use of the word affordability, Trump's tariffs are actually driving prices way up further. And he doesn't seem to care. But it's not about forced labor, and it's not about dumping.
Tariff is my favorite word.
Why is tariffs Trump's favorite word? Well, it's about the cost of his wars, the cost of his wall. No, Mexico never paid a dime for that wall. And most of all, it's about the cost of the tax break that Trump gave billionaires. Trump is on the verge of doing to the United States government exactly what he did to his Atlantic City casinos. Trump got paid, but the casinos went bankrupt. And now, Trump's getting rich, pulling in billions a year, while the U.S. Treasury is out an estimated $550 billion a year. That's $500 billion in tax money lost, $50 billion more in waste for the Iran war that Trump is busy losing. The Trump 100% tax on imported generic drugs, That's doubling the cost of 90% of the prescription drugs that all Americans take. Follow the money.
Americans are having a real cost problem. And I think that some of that relates back to the tariff decisions. I think everybody has conceded that Americans actually end up paying the cost of President Trump's tariffs.
I don't concede that the tariffs went through to consumers. A lot of them were eaten by foreign companies. A lot of them were diluted in the supply chain. And the reason why they're going back, can I, sir, may I? The reason why they're...
You can't, because I'm the one who has the limited time here. You're here all day. If, in fact, it's not paid by the American side, it would make no sense to be making refunds. So just your behavior with tariff refunds proves the point that it's not just paid by foreigners or foreign governments or China or whomever. So good luck with that.
Well, good morning, friends. So Donald J. Trump, the mentally ill patient number 47, is so out of touch with reality, so out of touch with the economy, and he's about to make things far worse than they already are. So, as you know, during Liberation Day, Donald Trump imposed all of these tariffs around the world, and ultimately the Supreme Court ruled that these tariffs were unconstitutional. But now Donald Trump is imposing new tariffs on 60 nations around the world at an average of 10 to 12%. And so your costs are about to get much more expensive once again, because this man does not know what he is doing. This man is actively making decisions that hurt the American people. And he's doing it at a time where prices are already out of control, not only because of his tariffs before, but because of this ridiculous war that he went and started with Iran, which now, as I'm sure many of you have seen, it's escalated and it's moved into the Red Seas, and the Houthis have gotten involved. But there is some silver lining to all of this chaos that's happening in our nation. The cracks in the foundation are showing. Donald Trump is losing massive amounts of support from his own voter base. I want to show you this Fox News poll so that you can see it for yourself. So according to this Fox News poll, 58% of people worry about the cost of living, and that is up 50% since February. 51% of those polled say that their finances are worse than they were 2 years ago. And look at this number, the big one, 76% Trump's disapproval on inflation. 76% of Fox News viewers disapprove of Trump's handling of inflation. Now, this is his base. This is coming from Fox News. This is not a CNN poll. This is not an MSNBC poll. This is Fox News, the loyal MAGA cult members. And if they're tired of it, you can be assured that that's going to show up at the polls in the midterms. Because like that famous saying always goes, it's the economy, stupid. And when people have to pay more at the pump, pay more at the grocery store, and their paychecks don't stretch like they used to, they're going to vote in a direction that's going to ultimately benefit them, benefit their family. We hope anyway. But he is quickly losing his grip. And this new round of tariffs that he's doing, it's going to exacerbate this problem. It's going to make it so much worse. And things are going to get way more expensive for you, way more expensive for me. And ultimately, these things that Donald Trump is doing hurts his base the most, because most of his voters are in the rural red areas in red states where wages are low, but the cost of living just keeps rising. And not only that, I'm not sure if you saw it, but Donald Trump basically told everybody that they just need to stop fighting against these AI data centers and go with the flow, because it's going to happen anyway. And so, as we've seen in all of the news, a lot of these data centers are being put in red states, in red rural areas, and the people, they don't want them. Nobody wants to live next to a data center that's got a constant humming noise all night, that's polluting their water supplies. We saw what happened in Utah. Utah is as red as it gets, and they didn't want that data center. But here's Donald Trump being out of touch with reality, out of touch with his people, telling them just deal with it. It's coming. And so that's Trump's way of handling everything, is telling his own base, just deal with it. It's all made up. You can't afford groceries. You're lying. Just stop crying about it. I'm tired of hearing it. And so he's going to make the economy so much worse. And he's telling people just deal with these data centers. New rounds of tariffs coming. War is escalating in the Middle East. It's a non-stop disaster. And Trump is at the center of it all. And his own followers are starting to notice and see that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, follow for more. As always, this is Grim with Get the Rant, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Check this out.
We've got to support Trump or civilization will collapse. Those are quotes. And it's true. I'm calling for it right now. 25th Amendment, impeachment, whatever needs to happen to get this front and center, to get control of our country.
I've been very open with the fact that I will be supporting Trump.
I'm completely embarrassed that I supported Trump in the past, because of, the fact that he completely flipped on his entire base.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. It's
I'm
a great
behind you.
honor.
I never even wanted Trump to win until he was the only guy to vote for.
Dude, Trump is the man. You guys ever meet Trump? You talk to him? No, you meet him and he's actually a solid guy.
When you're at a Trump rally, you're like, oh, I could definitely see how Hitler happened. Like, I'm not joking to you, dude. When you go to a Trump rally, it makes you question the sanity of everybody. If Trump said, go grab a gun and go do anything, they would do it. They would do it.
I know, it's a cult.
I became an active Trump supporter when they raided Mar-a-Lago.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure. I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people, and it was not intentional.
Look at all these Republican influencers turning on him. Is it because he didn't keep his promises? Is it because they know he's implicated in those files? Or maybe they just didn't get paid for promoting him, like so many other contractors he's worked with before. Either way, it's a sign of the times. His own base is getting sick and tired of his bullshit. It's about fucking time.
Irma isn't the only one in District 22 who feels betrayed by the administration's plan to gut Medicaid.
Musk doesn't need it. Billionaires don't need it.
They're making out big time with this, but they're hurting people in the process.
If we could go back to November, who would you vote for now, seeing what you see?
Yeah, instead of realizing what's happening to her family, her community, she still says she wouldn't have voted. I understand that we need folks like this to understand what they did was not going to benefit them. But I also feel like we have to be accepting, and we have to welcome people and bring them into the tent wherever they are in their process of understanding that they got.
I need you to understand how vile of a human you have to be to put a 200% tariff on generic medications. Trump wants to bring medicine manufacturing back to the US. So instead of providing any money for infrastructure that could actually achieve that, he is going to triple the price of generic medications, which accounts for 90% of US prescription drugs. The whole point of generics is for when a patent expires, you can get a cheaper alternative instead of having to pay tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars for the branded medication. The Supreme Courts have already stated that his tariffs are illegal, but aside from that, this is probably the most truest showcase of his greed, because I can almost guarantee you he has some type of investment in health insurance companies and or various medications that are branded.
They used to eat black people, so to be in such an uproar and outrage as we watch America unfold its historical behaviors, it's interesting because there's an entire book on how to make a black person into a delicatessen. And so if they used to eat us, do you understand their mentality, the sociopathic mentality that they have? So it's not new for us to see strange fruit hanging, tear gassing middle schools, unaliving people in broad daylight anywhere at their homes at any time of the day, and nothing happens. This is not new to us. What exactly did you think Trump meant when he said, make America great again? Did you think he meant make it great again? No, he meant go back to the times where there was strange fruit hanging. You can unalive people in the middle of the street, spray them with hoses and let dogs eat them. He's taking us back to where our ancestors already been. You guys are in an uproar, and you guys know who I'm talking about. We've been trying to tell you this for centuries, and all you did was call us, oh, you guys are acting like victims, let it go. Well, now you see. History always repeats itself because this is a narcissistic system, and they will do whatever they need to do to maintain power and control. So now, do you see clearly what we, us black, original people, have been trying to tell you? This is a part of the reason why they keep us divided, so you won't believe nothing that we say. Well, now you get to see it. We ain't got to say nothing.
The same fucking people who told black Americans to stop whining about slavery, stop whining about reparations, stop whining about affirmative action, stop whining about systemic racism, and saying that racism doesn't exist anymore, are the first motherfuckers who are rushing to change the congressional maps so they can try to get an advantage in the following midterms coming up. Racism has always existed, motherfuckers, and you're proving their point. Fuck you, MAGA. Fuck you, MAGA Republicans. You guys are fucking disgusting pieces of shit. And you're not fucking Christians. And you deserve to go to hell and burn like a motherfucker. Yeah, that's what every normal, rational American is thinking. Because you guys are fucking disgusting human beings.
Whenever the government cuts Medicare or Medicaid, disabled people get kicked off the programs that keep them alive because we are the waste that they are talking about. Our continued survival is something they consider fraud. Even though the federal government says that most overpayments are a result of administrative error or incorrect documentation rather than intentional fraud. Sure, maybe there are some people out there that are committing fraud. But if you are so committed to crackdown that you're okay with disabled people being your collateral damage, that's just eugenics.
So, I always promised to be, raw and open with you guys. I'm having one of the worst fucking days of my life today. Probably one of the worst days in a very long time. But, I got a letter in the mail today saying that they're canceling my health insurance. I'm not gonna have health insurance on Thursday of this week. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts didn't even give me a reason, really. The reason I got was Mass Health got information from available state or federal data sources that affect the eligibility of this person. Nothing has changed. And I just got this in the mail, and it says it cancels on the 6th. I have 4 days to fight this because I can't do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. I had to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I don't know what to do. And I'm on Medicaid, so it's Mass Health. I'm freaking out. How can they do this to someone?
You're going to hear more about tariffs and possibly see an increase in prices at the store because Trump just imposed tariffs on these 60 countries between 10 to 12.5%, alleging that they are participating in forced labor. He's now using Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 to impose these tariffs. Meanwhile, at the same time, his administration is paying out billions of dollars in tariff refunds from last year to corporations because last year he used the IEEPA, Economic Emergency Powers Act. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that those tariffs were illegal because he did not have authorization to impose those tariffs. A total of $86.3 billion has already been paid out to corporations. This is an increase from the amount that I previously reported yesterday, which was $70 billion. and the number is going to continue to grow. They have already accepted $121 billion in refund claims, and there are estimates that this number could go up to $167 billion in refunds to corporations who raised their prices in store, which caused you to pay more for the everyday goods that you need. And there is no accountability or no recourse for Americans and consumers. It is only going to these corporations or the brokers, the importers, the people who imported these products. And the majority of the people who are overseeing this are Republicans in Congress, in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate and in the White House. They have the ability to put some accountability into this entire process to ensure that these refunds get back into the hands of Americans, and instead they are choosing to stay silent and to do absolutely nothing, while all of us are seeing an increase in prices in everyday goods and grocery and gas.
Remember when Trump said this about prescription drug prices?
We're going to get the drug prices down, not 30 or 40%, which would be great, not 50 or 60. No, we're going to get them down 1,000%.
I lost my health insurance coverage back in September when my subsidies went from $25 a month to $516 a month. And this was not like premium top grade insurance, right? And so I have been without. And I was hanging out with some older friends of mine last night, and they were telling me that, you really need to be on health insurance. If you get hurt, if you get sick, you will be financially ruined. And I was telling them that I had been on health insurance for the last few years. And the last several times I went to the doctors, they did not help me. I had to pay hundreds of dollars out of pocket for doctors to look me in my face and say things like, use your hands less. That was the actual medical diagnosis. When I went in, I thought I had rheumatoid arthritis in my hands at age 35. And my doctor's advice was, use your hands less. I paid money for her to tell me that. And then last year, I had a stomach issue. I tried to go to the clinic, and they're like, well, because it's your stomach, you have to go to the ER in case you're pregnant. I'm like, I'm definitely not pregnant. It is a 0% chance that I am pregnant. Let me just assure you, okay, the life I live, I'm not pregnant. And they're like, sorry, I literally could not go to a clinic, which only would have cost me $120 out the door for everything that I needed. They had to refund me and make me go to the ER. So then I'm at the ER for 5.5 hours. I have to get a CT scan, which charged my insurance $15,000. I end up paying over $600 out of pocket for, at the end of this visit, for the doctor to look me in the eyeballs and shrug and say, maybe try over-the-counter antacids.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to quickly break down what is going on between MAGA and Donald Trump, because MAGA voters regret their vote after watching healthcare slip away. Now they are wondering maybe they were misled. So I want to quickly share my own opinion about this. So in my own opinion, I think nothing tests a politician promises more than healthcare, because healthcare is more and more important in people's life. So during campaigns, politicians talks about the economy, jobs, tax, and border security. Those issues matter. But when someone gets sick, none of those things feel as urgent as knowing you can afford to see a doctor or fill a prescription. So that is why I believe healthcare is where politics become personal. So many MAGA voters supported Donald Trump because they believe he would make life better for ordinary Americans. They were not just voting for a political party. They were voting for what they hoped would be a more secure future for themselves and their families. But today, some voters are asking whether their future has arrived. For some families, concern about health care has become just as important as concern about the economy. So when people worry about paying medical bills or wonder whether they will still be able to afford treatment, it is natural for them to start asking tough questions. Now let me ask you this. If your health care becomes less affordable after an election, would that change how you vote the next time? I want you to tell me that in the comment section. Now, I want to be quickly fair. I don't believe American healthcare problem started with Donald Trump. The system has faced challenges for many years under both the Republican and Democratic president. Healthcare costs have continued to rise. Insurance remains expensive for many families. Prescription drugs are still a major burden for millions of Americans. So these are long-term problems that no administration has completely solved. But here is where I think voters become frustrated. Every election brings big promises. Every candidate says they will improve healthcare. Every candidate says they will lower costs. Yet, many Americans still feel like they are paying more while getting less. That is why I think some voters are beginning to lose patience. That is why I think some voters are beginning to lose their patience, not just with one politician, but with the political system itself. People doesn't care about who win the argument in Washington. They care about whether they can afford to stay healthy. Personally, I believe politicians sometimes spend too much time celebrating policy victories and not enough. They don't create enough time listening to people who are actually struggling. If someone has to choose between buying medicine and buying grocery, then something is not working. If retirees are wondering about their next medical bill, then leaders should pay more attention to that. Healthcare shouldn't become a political football. It shouldn't be one of the country's highest priorities. And I also think voters are becoming smarter. So instead of listening only to campaign promises, many are starting to judge politicians based on what they experience in everyday life. And that is exactly how it should be. Promises may win election. Results keep public trust. And when people doesn't see the result they expected, disappointment is almost inevitable. So in my own opinion, the solution is not to blindly support one party or automatically reject another party. So the solution is accountability. If a policy improves people's life, it deserves support. If it doesn't, leaders should explain why and they should make changes as soon as possible. That is not being disloyal. That is being an informed voter. And at the end of the day, healthcare affects every American at some point in life. Maybe you are rich or poor. Maybe you are Republican or Democrat. Maybe you are young or old. Sooner or later, everyone depends on healthcare system that works. That is why I believe leaders should treat healthcare as more than just another campaign issue. It should be a promises they work on every day, and they should keep to the promise. I think that's my own opinion about this. So if you have any comment about this, drop it down in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.